The blizzard was not in the forecast, a fact Liam had been loudly pointing out for the last hour as his sleek sedan struggled against the accumulating snow on the winding mountain road. Beside him, Maya, a free-spirited painter he'd been forced to partner with on a high-stakes architectural project, just rolled her eyes. Complaining won't make the snow melt faster, Liam. Just focus on not driving us off a cliff. Their destination was a secluded cabin, the only place their reclusive client would agree to meet. Liam, a man whose life was a series of perfectly calculated spreadsheets and 5-year plans, found Maya's chaotic energy and paint-splattered existence utterly infuriating. She found his rigidity and obsession with control equally maddening. Their partnership had been a month of constant bickering, a clash of oil and water. They reached the cabin just as the storm intensified into a whiteout. It was a rustic, sturdy structure of log and stone, looking more like a fortress against the elements than a cozy retreat. They scrambled inside, shaking off the snow. The interior was freezing. Liam flicked the light switch. Nothing. "Power's out," he stated, his voice tight with frustration. He checked his phone. No signal. Maya let out a sigh, her breath pluming in the frigid air. "Well, isn't this romantic?" She dropped her bags and rubbed her arms. "At least there's a fireplace." The cabin consisted of a large main room with a stone hearth, a small kitchen, and a loft bedroom with a single large bed. The realization hit them both at the same time. Liam looked at Maya, then at the loft stairs, then back at her. "You take the bed. I'll sleep down here on the couch," he said. His tone clipped. Maya raised an eyebrow. "Don't be a martyr, Liam. That couch looks like a torture device. We're adults. We can share a bed without it being a thing. It's about survival." She shivered violently. "And right now, I'd kill for some body heat." Liam hesitated. The thought of sharing a bed with the woman who had been a thorn in his side for weeks was complicated. But the cold was a more immediate enemy. "Fine," he grumbled, already starting to build a fire with a ruthless efficiency that Maya found both annoying and, she had to admit, a little impressive. "But stay on your side." As the fire crackled to life, casting long, dancing shadows across the room, they huddled before it, an uneasy truce settling between them. The silence was broken only by the howl of the wind outside, a stark contrast to the rising heat between them. Liam couldn't help but notice the way the firelight caught the auburn highlights in Maya's hair, and how her oversized sweater slipped off one shoulder, revealing a glimpse of smooth skin. He quickly looked away, a sudden, unfamiliar warmth spreading through his chest that had nothing to do with the fire. The storm had trapped them, but he was beginning to wonder if the real danger was inside the cabin, in the form of this woman who defied every rule in his book. The next 2 days were a lesson in forced coexistence. The blizzard raged on, sealing them in a world of white. Their routine revolved around keeping a fire stoked, melting snow for water, and navigating the small space without driving each other crazy. Deprived of his work and distractions, Liam found himself observing Maya. He watched her sketch by the firelight, her face a portrait of intense focus, a smudge of charcoal on her cheek that he found strangely endearing. He listened to her humming softly as she cooked a surprisingly decent stew from the canned goods they found in the pantry. Maya, in turn, saw a side of Liam she hadn't expected. The uptight businessman was surprisingly capable in a crisis. He chopped wood with a primal strength, fixed a drafty window with makeshift tools, and even, on the second night, told a dry, self-deprecating joke that made her laugh out loud. The laughter surprised them both, a bright, clear sound that seemed to crack the ice that had formed between them. That evening, after a dinner of canned chili, they sat on the rug in front of the fire, a bottle of red wine they'd discovered between them. The initial tension had softened into something else, a simmering awareness. "So, Mr. Five-Year Plan," Maya began, taking a sip of wine, "what happens when the plan goes off the rails, like now?" Liam looked into the flames. "I don't like it when things go off the rails. It's chaotic, inefficient." "Life is chaotic, Liam," Maya said softly. "You can't blueprint everything. Sometimes the best things happen when you lose control." He turned to look at her, his blue eyes intense in the firelight. "Is that what you think? That I'm just a control freak?" "I think you're afraid," she challenged, her voice low. "Afraid of what might happen if you just let go." Liam held her gaze. "Maybe I am." He reached out, not to touch her, but to take the wine glass from her hand. His fingers brushed hers, a jolt of electricity passing between them. He saw her breath hitch. The air in the cabin seemed to thicken, charged with an unspoken question. He leaned in, just an inch, and for a heart-stopping moment, he thought she might lean in too. But then, a large log shifted in the fireplace with a loud crack, sending a shower of sparks upwards. They both jumped, the spell broken. Liam quickly retreated, a flush rising on his neck. I should get more wood," he stammered, standing up abruptly. Maya watched him go, her heart pounding in her chest. The man was infuriating, stubborn and rigid. Yet beneath that carefully constructed armor, she'd glimpsed a fire that matched her own. And God help her, she wanted to be the one to stoke it. The third day brought a subtle shift in the storm. The wind howled less ferociously, but the temperature dropped even further. The cabin, despite the roaring fire, felt like an icebox. By evening, they were bundled in every layer of clothing they had, shivering even as they sat right in front of the hearth. "It's no use," Maya said, her teeth chattering. "The heat isn't reaching the loft. We'll freeze if we try to sleep up there tonight." Liam looked at the large bearskin rug in front of the fireplace. It was the warmest spot in the cabin. "We'll have to sleep down here," he said, his voice rough. "On the rug. Together." Maya didn't argue. The cold was a physical pain. They dragged the mattress and all the blankets from the loft down to the hearth, creating a makeshift nest. They lay down, fully clothed, back to back, a rigid line between them. But the cold was relentless. After an hour of shivering, Liam felt Maya turn over. "Liam," she whispered, her voice shaking, "I'm freezing." He turned to face her. In the dim light, her lips were blue, her whole body trembling. Without thinking, acting on a primal instinct to protect, he opened his arms. "Come here." She hesitated for a fraction of a second, then scooted into his embrace. He wrapped his arms tight around her, pulling her body against his. The shock of her coldness against his own warmth was intense. He tucked her head under his chin and rubbed her back briskly, trying to generate friction. Slowly, the shivering subsided. The warmth they created together was a cocoon against the hostile world outside. Maya's body softened against his, her curves fitting perfectly into his angles. The scent of her hair, something floral and wild, filled his senses. He could feel her heart beating against his chest, a frantic rhythm that matched his own. "Better?" he murmured into her hair. She hummed, a vibration against his chest. She lifted her head slightly, looking up at him. Her eyes were dark pools in the firelight, her lips slightly parted. The air between them was suddenly so thick with tension, it was hard to breathe. He traced the line of her jaw with his thumb, his touch feather-light. "Maya," he breathed, her name a question and a plea. Her hand came up to rest on his chest, over his pounding heart. "Liam," she whispered back. He closed the distance. His lips brushed hers, tentative at first, a question. Her response was immediate, a soft sigh as she opened to him. The kiss deepened, becoming hungry, desperate. It was a release of days of pent-up frustration, anger, and an undeniable attraction that they had both tried so hard to ignore. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer while hers gripped his shoulders, as if she were afraid he might disappear. The cold was forgotten. The only thing that existed was the fire inside them, burning brighter and hotter than the flames in the hearth. The kiss broke, leaving them both breathless. Maya looked up at him, her eyes shining with a mixture of desire and vulnerability. "I thought you liked to be in control," she challenged softly, her voice husky. "Not tonight," Liam growled, his voice raw. "Not with you." He rolled over, hovering above her, his gaze intense. He saw the invitation in her eyes, the surrender. He reached down and slowly, deliberately, began to peel off her layers of clothing, the thick sweater, the thermal shirt beneath, his eyes never leaving hers. With each layer removed, the heat in the small space seemed to intensify. He traced the swell of her breasts, the curve of her waist, his touch igniting a trail of fire on her skin. Maya arched beneath him, her hands moving to his shirt, her fingers fumbling with the buttons in her haste. When his skin met hers, it was electric. She pulled him down, her mouth finding his again, fierce and demanding. Their lovemaking was a storm of its own, passionate, urgent, and wildly uninhibited. It was a clash of their personalities, a push and pull of control and surrender. Liam, usually so methodical, was driven by raw instinct, his movements powerful and demanding. Maya met him with equal fervor, her artistic soul finding expression in the symphony of their bodies. The firelight danced on their skin, slick with sweat. Sounds of pleasure, gasps and moans filled the cabin, drowning out the dying wind outside. He worshipped her body with his hands and mouth, learning every curve, every sensitive spot, drawing out her pleasure until she was writhing beneath him, her nails digging into his shoulders. "Liam, please," she begged, her voice a broken sob of need. He didn't make her wait. He entered her, a slow, deep thrust that made her cry out, her body bowing to meet him. They moved together, finding a rhythm that was as perfect and inevitable as the tides. The tension between them, once a wall, was now a bridge. With every thrust, they tore down the remaining defenses, baring their souls to each other in the most primal way possible. The climax hit them simultaneously, a shattering wave of pleasure that left them clinging to each other, gasping for air. They lay tangled in the blankets and each other's arms, their bodies slick with sweat, their hearts beating a slow, synchronized rhythm. The fire had burned down to glowing embers, but they didn't notice the cold. They were cocooned in a warmth that had nothing to do with the hearth, a warmth that came from a newly forged connection that was as surprising as it was undeniable. Liam woke to blinding sunlight streaming through the window. The storm had broken. The world outside was a glittering expanse of pristine white snow. He looked down at Maya, still asleep in his arms, her hair fanned out across his chest. A soft smile touched his lips. The events of the previous night rushed back to him, the passion, the vulnerability, the sheer intensity of their connection. It terrified him, and yet, for the first time in a long time, he felt truly alive. Maya stirred, her eyes fluttering open. For a moment, confusion clouded her gaze, then recognition dawned, followed by a shy smile. "Morning," she murmured, her voice thick with sleep. "Morning," he replied, tightening his hold on her. They lay there for a while, content in the silence, the reality of the outside world slowly creeping back in. The storm was over, the road would be cleared soon. They would have to go back to the city, to their project, to their separate lives. "So," Maya said, tracing a pattern on his chest with her fingertip, "what happens now?" Liam knew what she was asking. Was this just the storm-induced fling, a reaction to the cold and isolation? "I don't know," he admitted honestly, "but I do know I don't want to just walk away from this." Maya looked up at him, her eyes searching his. Me neither. But we're different, Liam. Very different. I know, he said, capturing her hand and kissing her palm. You're chaos and I'm order. But maybe, he paused, searching for the right words. Maybe a little chaos is exactly what I need. She laughed, a soft, happy sound. And maybe a little order wouldn't kill me. They spent the morning packing in comfortable silence, the tension of the past replaced by a newfound ease. The snowplow arrived just as they were finishing their coffee. As they drove away from the cabin, the sun reflecting off the snow, Liam reached over and took Maya's hand. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes. Back in the city, their partnership changed. The bickering was replaced by a respectful collaboration. Their differences now a source of strength rather than conflict. Their project was a massive success, a perfect blend of Liam's structured vision and Maya's creative flair. More importantly, the connection they had forged in the frozen cabin didn't melt away with the snow. It deepened, growing into a love that was as passionate and enduring as the storm that had brought them together. Liam learned that life's best moments couldn't be planned on a spreadsheet, and Maya learned that sometimes the most beautiful art is found in the structure of a shared life. The blizzard had been a force of nature, but the love it had uncovered was a force far more powerful.